Hello, I'm Bret Moss, and you're watching the defining moment for creating the culture of conscience. Our guest today is Xandra Graviet. Xandra mourned the passing of her 13-year-old daughter 9 years ago, when her daughter Brooke was hit by a car and tragically killed. In an attempt to find peace after her daughter's death, Xandra began a search with the help of her deceased daughter to understand the secrets of life and death. She authored the book Angel in Disguise to chronicle for everyone the conversation she was able to have with her daughter Brooke from across the veil dividing the physical world and the spiritual worlds through a method of spiritual channeling known as automatic writing. Xandra lives in the state of Nevada. Xandra Graviet, welcome to the Defining Moment. It's really a privilege for me, a pleasure for me to have you here today in our studio. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for coming. Our topic is a mother's spiritual rebirth with the assistance of her teenage daughter from the spirit world. And I'd like to begin by asking you to share with us what are some of the things about the life you imagined with your daughter that you had to let go of when she died.
Well, to begin with, Brooke was such a loving, vibrant spirit. She was just beautiful and fun, and she was everything I wanted to be. Things that I probably didn't do in my own life, she seemed to be showing up and doing in hers. And she was just so happy and loving and just, accepting of everyone. And she wanted to sing. She wanted to become a singer. She wanted to, she played basketball, even though she was a short little girl that didn't make, wasn't the best girl on the team. She was the life of the team because she had such a great soul. And so she was just this great, wonderful soul to be around. Everyone just loved her. I mean, everyone just loved her. And, I wanted to see her become a singer. I wanted to see her go to the prom. I wanted to see her get married. I wanted to see her, anything that a mother would want for their child. So I lost those things.
Why is the spiritual connection between a mother and a daughter stronger than the physical connection between a mother and a daughter?
Well, because it's always there. It is physically in your body when you're pregnant, but that energy connection is always there. It's like we're a part of each other. I guess in some ways, I learned from actually my channeling. It's like the connection we have to God. Maybe it's not one we always see, but it's always there. And this is something you don't always see with your child, but it is there. The love, you have so much love for your children because they are a part of you, and it makes you understand more how, we're a part of God, and that connection is just as strong. And I understand that through understanding it with my child. It's just there, and it's like an energy bond that is... It's kind of hard to explain, but it's there. You know it, you feel it.
And it's been there for the past 9 years since she passed away.
Definitely for all that time, and the whole time she was alive, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it stayed in her passing, and it still stays.
Mm-hmm. In what ways did your daughter's death become a gift especially meant for you?
Well, my whole life, I come from an abusive childhood. So my whole life, instead of feeling, I learned how not to feel because I didn't want to feel the things that were happening to me. And so I shut down feelings, but losing Brooke, you can't not feel that. It opened this doorway to feel again and to live life, actually living life instead of pretending things don't hurt, I'm okay, and avoiding what was really going on in my life. I learned to feel again instead of being shut down. A lot of people shut down when they're abused and they go through hard things. You just put up this brick wall around you, and that's what I did. But I couldn't do it. There's no way you can do it. A gift to make me really look. One thing I had done so much in my life is, in not feeling, I decided to help other people, which, not that I'm saying it's wrong to help other people, because that's a good thing, but I didn't always, maybe more in a codependent way, I would help people. Like try and, this is what you should be doing, this is what you should be doing, and I wasn't ever worried about what I should be doing. I was too busy worrying about how to fix the world. And so it was a gift to say, okay, I got to come back to me and worry about taking care of me first and fix me before I can help anyone else. I got to learn how to love me and take care of me. And so it was a gift in, changing the way I was living my life. I mean, who am I? I mean, I had to really figure out who I was as a person. I learned so many things about myself, found strengths I didn't know I had. Learned, and actually a big gift back to God. For pretty much all my life, I just didn't feel maybe God was there.
You didn't feel that God was there?
Because I thought, well, if God was there, you wouldn't be abused as a child. Because why would I be abused if God was there?
Yes.
I didn't think he was there for me. But through this, I had to go back and find out that he was.
And can you tell us how you found that out?
How I found that out? Well, just because you realize and a lot of that comes out in the book, but how I had to really go to God for my answers. There was no, I'm not good enough anymore. God's not there for me. I had to go to God because there was nowhere else to go. I knew I had to go to God and figure this out because I was just so broken.
With your daughter's death, you felt that a part of you died as well.
Yeah.
Why has your daughter expressed that that's simply not true?
Well, it was an explanation that you may have think you've died, but actually you're being reborn. You were dead when you were not feeling life, when you were shut down from the world and you were in fear and you weren't living. You were dead then, but instead now you feel like you died, but you're being reborn. And she even explains that in how she died. It's like being reborn again too, into a spiritual, but only into the spirit world. And that same thing is like my spirit being reborn again in this world, because I was somehow, from the way my life had been, shut down from spirit.
Yeah.
She lives on in the spirit world, but then the part of me that didn't die is that I live on in the physical world, but with spirit instead of just physically going through the motions. So that's how
your own rebirth then.
Right.
Okay, thank you. How has your daughter's death impacted the lives of other people?
It's been such a change for everyone. I mean, every single person. People wanting to live more, obviously moving more towards God, but wanting to live their life more fully. And people around me definitely have been changed, friends, and, they've told me from my experience their life has been altered, and also the changes she created, the whole circumstances with her being an organ donor, the miracles that came in other people's lives, it changed their lives forever. They got to live on and go through some pretty amazing experiences because of that.
In one chapter of your book, your daughter teaches you about your having been disconnected from God's love, which you mentioned earlier, most of your life up until her death. Tell us some more about that, if you would.
I just know that for pretty much my whole life, I felt like a dark cloud was around me, and that I just didn't feel worthy of God's love. I couldn't, I guess, when I was being at the abuse, like I said earlier, I didn't feel like I was worthy of God's love for some reason. And so I felt more drawn into darkness than the light, because I felt, maybe I belonged there instead of the light, and close to God. I felt if I went to, say, a church or something, I just didn't feel like I belonged there, like I wasn't good enough to be there.
What's the most important thing you've learned from your daughter's passing?
I think the biggest lesson I could say I have learned is fear. To how important it is to walk through fear now, because the biggest fear I ever had in my life would be to lose a child. And it happened. So I don't see how anything else I could try and do in this life I need to be afraid of. You know, going out there and speaking, which that's always been a big fear of mine, but speaking in front of people has always been very difficult for me. And yet here I am today, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
It is facing fears, really, because it's the biggest gift in the world, because you can't go through anything worse to me than losing a child. So I need to go out in my life and live my life. And that's just on the other side of living again. Sometimes we are so afraid to live, and because you know how people are going to look at us, judgment, or, oh, I won't make it, I'm going to fail, and all that. What does that all mean? Those fears are meaningless to what I've gone through. So I feel like, it's helped me face fears and want to walk through them.
What is automatic writing, and how did you first learn about it?
I first learned about it, so interestingly, right before Brooke died, and it was not all that long before she died. And I think I read a book, it was Ruth Montgomery's book, Automatic Writing. And I had gotten this, I believe, from my dad's wife at the time. She had this book, and I was visiting them, and I read the whole thing, and then I knew I could do it. I knew I was supposed to do it. And so I started doing it right before Brooke died, and I knew I was going to write a book. And so I was writing all this stuff. In fact, I wrote 3 books, of information that I did nothing with before Brooke died. And I thought, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then a couple days before Brooke was hit, I got this message. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I just heard, "I am your passion," in my head. And I wrote it down, and I was being told, I guess, spiritually, "I am your passion," the automatic writing like this. And then I got a message that said, "You're going to have to do something, and it's going to be the hardest thing you do ever in your life." And I was like, that's weird, okay. And then I went back to bed, and then I didn't know what that meant until a little while later. But that's how I learned to do it. But I was writing all these books thinking this is what I was supposed to do. And when I look back, I've nothing with those, because they were just practice, apparently, for what I was really going to do. When I needed the automatic writing to heal myself, it came. I actually didn't write this until a year later, and then I wrote the rest of it 9 months ago.
Okay, good. And the way automatic writing works is you hear a voice and you write down what you hear. Is that more or less the process?
That time I did it. It's like a voice or words in your head, and then I write down. I just sit down and write, and sometimes it just,
Well, these are not like thoughts you're having. It's like something from outside of you speaking to you.
It's like separate in a sense from you.
As if you're listening to a telephone or something. It's coming from outside of you.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, and this I think it was before she died. It may have been after. This part's a little confusing. When I was getting the automatic writing, because sometimes I would think, am I making this stuff up? Or where's it going? I really had to question, am I making this up? And I mean, sometimes as I was doing it, it would come in, and I'd even get jokes and stuff, and they were pretty funny. And I was like, I can't just be making this up. You weren't making that up,
I see.
Yeah, it was kind of odd that way, but yeah, so I knew I wasn't making it up. And then when I look back, sometimes I'll just be sitting there typing, and then I go back and read it later, and I'm like, wow. And I knew it didn't come from just my mind, it came from a different place. So I knew, it really is automatic writing.
So it's you have to kind of, in a sense, tune in to that channel where you're able to hear those messages.
Yeah, and I have to be, and what someone told me this once, and I think it's really true, is like when you're at just such a crisis point, your heart opens up to that stronger than anything. I mean, the channel is so clear, and that's how it's been for me. I mean, like I said, I wrote the first part in 2 weeks. I've just done. And then the last 6 chapters I wrote in 4 hours, because I was just right there at that point where it was wide open. I guess because I was just at that point.
Yeah.
But it does, you know, and I do channeling sometimes, but the most clear stuff has been when I'm really at some deep, painful points.
Crisis
Point it's been so far. I wish it didn't have to be that way, but that's what it's been so far.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Explain more how automatic writing has allowed you to heal your relationship with your daughter.
Well, because I saw these miraculous things that were happening around me. They were like miracles, little things that just started happening around me. And I was telling you before the show that everything that happened with her death started around the 4th of July. Mm-hmm. And I felt like somehow I was in a movie as all these events started happening. She wasn't actually hit till the 8th of July. She was hit by the car. And then she passed on the 10th. But from the 4th, everything in my life felt like I was in a movie. I mean, just these things were happening. This energy I can't even explain. These miraculous events were happening around me. And I felt it. Like somehow I'm in a movie. And how I explained that was, then I look at it, I could look back after when I started doing the automatic writing and see that they were in God's hands. These miraculous events that were taking place, they were not in my hands. That's why it felt so magical, but yet, you know, so painful. But yet it was like this whole thing was just happening, and I could feel it. Mm-hmm. I mean, she was in a 4th of July parade, and she was so cute, right? You know, and she's riding on the parade, and she, you know, it was just waving at us, so happy. But everything just felt, I guess the word surreal. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that happened, and then just everything, events, you know, Braden had a dream, and I think it's in the book. Braden, who was 7 at the time, has this dream either the night before or 2 nights before she was hit, and he comes in, he's 7 years old, and he goes, Mom, and he's crying, he goes, I had a nightmare last night, and this is the first time ever that I ever remember saying something like this. He said, and I had a dream about Grandpa Simmons, and I'm like, Grandpa Simmons, he died before Braden was even born. I'm like, how do you even know who he, you know, you kind of knows probably from pictures and stuff, but, and he said, he came to me in a dream last night, and then Braden had cut Brooke's picture in half that same day. And, you know, why would he do this? It was a beautiful dance picture she just got from her dancing thing. And then later he told me, after Brooke died, that he came to him and he told him that she was going to go. You know, so that event happened, and just everything around us was like that. We would run. My dad came in town and just last minute, and he saw Brooke, and a cousin she hadn't seen in all this time shows up, and I mean, just everything that was going on was orchestrated. You know, it just, you could feel it. The energy was so different, and so if I just looked at it before, maybe I wouldn't have been able to see the miracles that took place. But through the automatic writing and the book, I could see, wow, God's hand was here. You know, it saved. You know, and even the organ donor situation. Those people had miraculous things happen with them. The lady who got her liver, and I mean, this was all taking place, you know. It
was as if some energy had taken over your life in a sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
No, it is, because it felt like that. It felt like everything was surreal, and this energy, and these things are happening, and I'm not in control of them. They're just happening, and these miraculous events are taking place around me, and you can feel it building. I think it was, you know, definitely God's plan for healing of many things, you know, and lessons learned about life and love, because we all die, you know. Certainly we don't expect our children to die before us.
Yes.
But everyone dies, and we have to understand, and it's so hard to understand death. I think this is a big reason, is to help with this story understand death, that it's sometimes a miraculous event. You know, yes, her life wasn't saved, and yet others were, which, you know, my mind had to get around that too, you know, because that was terribly hard to understand. And yet, you know, God has a plan that we don't always understand. Maybe we want it to be this way because this is the perfect way. It's supposed to be this way in our minds. But would we learn the lessons we had to learn? Would my heart change and become open? Would other people's? Would people? You actually, you know, can grow and change from things like this.
Yes.
In a way.
In a very authentic way.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly from the heart.
Why is a life without feeling a life of not truly being alive?
Good question. You know, if you're not feeling, you're not being real. You know, I found myself so much in life just kind of going along with other people's wishes and just following, you know, not really ever being true to me. You know, it was so easy to just lose myself in other people and never figure out who I was. And so, because I didn't need to feel, I just fall into whatever, you know, and I never true to my own feelings, never living my own life, which I think what I've learned now that I feel, you know, that everyone has a destiny and a plan, and they need to be in their own place, and it needs to be somewhat separate from, I mean, we're all connected in one way, but yet somewhat separate and individual on our own. And I wouldn't do that when I didn't feel. I just would blend myself over here, and never feel what I wanted. Never stand up for what I wanted either. You know, I was married to a police officer, and he used to say to me, why can't you just be happy being a cop's wife? And that was difficult. You know, it would make me kind of mad. So there was a part of me that was trying to fight that because he didn't want me to be an individual too. And I think to be authentic, you have to be an individual too. And I wasn't really getting that out of my life. I wasn't feeling anything, so I would go along with things that weren't right necessarily for me either. You don't know what's right or wrong for you, so you just follow people around, and, you know, when you're not feeling. Your truth comes when you're feeling what it is. If you're in a situation that's wrong for you and yet you're just going along because you don't want to upset somebody, you're so worried about what other people think, you don't worry about what you think. I'm so worried about pleasing other people that I never actually love myself first and please myself and do what's right for me. I mean, that being authentic in our feelings, you know, if you're angry, if someone does hurt you, I'm not saying, it's just, you need to be true to that, because you can be led astray all the time if you're not feeling it, you know. And I have done that. I went and, you know, been astray, following people that I shouldn't have been following around because I wasn't true to my own self. You can be true in relationships, in life.
That's like a sixth sense you're talking about, or intuition.
The feeling? Well, I mean, you actually can, yeah, I guess it would be. Because you can feel, your intuition can be the strongest from feeling instead of our minds. Our minds can confuse us all the time, which I know that. And if you're not feeling, you can be out there lost. But when you're feeling and you know the truth, you can live your life more the way authentically.
The way you're meant to.
The way you're meant to, that's good. I was so busy, my life's perfect, pretending that everything was okay in my marriage and my family, that I pretended, you've got this problem, and gosh, you know, I was always counseling these people, telling them to what they ought to be doing with their life. And I spending so much time, you know, talking to people on the phone or being there for other people. Not that we shouldn't listen to people, but I was spending so much time outside of myself that I never looked inside of myself. I avoided myself, basically. And, you know, there was a lot of stuff going on in my marriage that I wasn't capable of seeing because I was too busy thinking that everything was, you know, pretending, I guess, that everything was okay. And, you know, out here fixing their problems. So I wasn't being real. You know, maybe I thought I was. I thought I was being this generous person, giving, caring person, but I don't think I was being real. And I think people need to go the same place I had to go for myself. People probably have to do for themselves instead of allowing other people to come in and codependently fix them. And I found myself doing that all the time for people. You know.
Okay, very good. And what was the hardest thing for you about losing your daughter?
Just, you know, it was so hard to understand that I'm talking to her on the phone and then she's gone. And or she was hit by the car, and never again would I see her physically there. As far as alive, and it's so strange. I remember just going into her room, and the things that are such a big concern to you in life, material things, and she's got to have this, she's got to have that. Worrying about these silly things. When I went into her room, none of it meant anything. And it was so hard for me to understand that one day she's there and she's not. I never expected that. In my wildest dreams, I just never, ever expected that. And for a long time, it was really hard for me to enjoy anything at first, I think to myself, well, it's so beautiful, fall day, but I can't hardly enjoy it. I can't enjoy it because she's gone. She's gone. Just that awareness was so, so hard for me.
And when you're in that place that I can't enjoy it because she's not here, what did she say to you from the spiritual world? What kind of guidance, what kind of advice did she give you?
She said that she enjoys so much beauty there, and everything is vibrant and beautiful there, and that she was enjoying that, and that I needed to quit not enjoying the world here, that I shouldn't be stopping myself from enjoying it because she was enjoying that and much more. So why would I cut myself off from it? Because in a sense, I was cutting myself off more from living.
Out of self-pity, in a sense.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I myself have to be reminded of those things, because sometimes I, once again, take myself in that. It's like this battle that goes back from spirit to ego, self-pity to, getting spiritual and realizing those same ideals again. I really do. I have to reread it and say, oh yeah, wow, I can't believe that I let myself go this far off when I've been to this place and have this great understanding. And even though I've had it, I can let myself go back into the ego world and be in self-pity.
On that note, Xandra, Graviet, I want to thank you so much for being our guest today on The Defining Moment, and just really appreciate you opening your heart and sharing such an intimate, personal testimony with our viewers. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You've been watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. You can find us on the internet at www.definingmoment.tv. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.